Hello everyone, Patrick here. Welcome to another episode of SFF Spotlight. I believe this is episode number 109. But as usual, if this is the first time you're new here, this is a series of videos where I usually talk about new book news, new cover reveal, new special edition, and new Kickstarter campaign in the adult science fiction and fantasy genre. Because if I try to encompass many of the other genre, well, each of these episodes will be about probably 1 hour or 2 hours long because there are a lot of things going on in the industry every week, and it has been 2 weeks since I did an SFF Spotlight episode. So let's get started immediately. First, let's start talking about new book announcement and also cover reveals. The first one is about Destiny's Age by ML Wang. So ML Wang just dropped the news and also dropped the free book if you're subscribed to her newsletter. Her new book, okay, this is Destiny's Age. So after The Sword of Kaigen, after Blood over Brighthaven, we now have Destiny's Age, and I haven't read this one yet. I believe this was originally penned to be a novella, but it has become a full novel, a relatively short novel. I think it's about 80,000 or 90,000 words long, so that's a bit shorter than Blood over Brighthaven. But when it comes to ML Wang and her standalone story, I completely have faith in her. I think she's the queen of standalone fantasy novel. The Sword of Kaigen is still my number one favorite epic fantasy standalone of all time, together with now The Poet Empress and probably Children of Húrin. Children of Húrin by J.R.R. Tolkien and also The Poet Empress by Shen-Tao. But these three are top tier epic fantasy standalone for me. But anyway, yeah, Destiny's Age is available to get now if you're subscribed to her newsletter. This is a new epic fantasy novel, and if I'm not mistaken, this will lead into the main duology that ML Wang has planned, and I definitely will read all of them. Everything by ML Wang, I will read them all basically. And after that, we have Songs of the Sun Eater. So the cover art for this one is done by Kieran Yanner. So Kieran Yanner, well, if you are familiar with the Sun Eater series, then you will know that he did basically almost all the cover art for the Sun Eater series except Empire of Silence. I'm talking about the US edition, by the way. Yeah, Empire of Silence, the US edition, was illustrated by Sam Weber, but everything else from Howling Dark up to Shadows Upon Time, the US cover art, all of them were illustrated by Kieran Yanner, and he has returned to pretty much provide his skill for Songs of the Sun Eater, a collection of short stories in the Sun Eater universe, old and new. I have got the chance to read one of the newer short story in the Sun Eater series, and trust me, if you have actually finished reading the Sun Eater series and you want to know more beyond what happened at the end of Shadows Upon Time, then I believe that title will be available in this. It's probably not the same title I'm referring to, but anyway, there will be a new title taking place after Shadows Upon Time in this collection of short stories. Another one will be it will definitely be available in the Unbroken Kickstarter being posted and also, well, being held by Grim Oak Press and also Peter O'Rulian. But Songs of the Sun Eater, it will be published at the end of this year, and as a big fan of the Sun Eater series, of course, I'll be reading all the title, the one that I haven't read, in the Songs of the Sun Eater. The cover art looks gorgeous as expected and also as always. But now let's talk about special editions. Before I start talking about all the good things, I think I would just get the bad news out of the way first. It has been announced that Subterranean Press is closing down. Now this has been announced, I believe, a month or two ago on the Facebook group, on the Facebook fan club group of Subterranean Press. And ever since then, it's kind of a downer because Subterranean Press, even though I don't own a lot of books published by them, but they have been there in the industry for more than a decade now. I think they're one of the, if not the trendsetter of fine press in epic fantasy. And I have loved so many of their editions, and their Malazan Book of the Fallen, their Red Rising Saga, they are hailed as some of the best fine press edition of these two series. And I pretty much agree with this. And these are just a few. I'm just talking about two, and they have many ongoing series right now, such as the Hierarchy series by James Arlington and also the Shadow of the Leviathan series by Robert Jackson Bennett. But they will still try to publish every book in the ongoing series. And other than that, they have mentioned cryptically that they have found a new home for Subterranean Press. We don't know who yet. As Bill said, he asked to not make any speculation, and that's what I will do. But anyway, this is kind of a blow, okay? Because Subterranean Press, as I said, have been there ever since I started reading. Yeah, ever since I started really reading epic fantasy, Subterranean Press was there, and it has been such a joy to see all the artwork being provided to all these many epic fantasy and sci-fi books that I love. And it's kind of surreal that I actually get to work on making pretty much the same job now as Subterranean Press at the Broken Binding. But yeah, it's a downer. For those of you who want to know the full details about this, I will leave the link to the details in the description down below. But speaking of the Broken Binding, I and also the Broken Binding group have been really busy at pretty much working on a lot of special editions, and a few of them have finally been announced, and I am super thrilled to finally announce that the Broken Binding next fantasy subscription after The Faithful and the Fallen, which will ship really soon, finally, is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and also Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So this one, ever since I got the project, I instantly knew I wanted two artists to work on the cover art and also pretty much all the interior of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and also Piranesi. So for the cover art, I instantly linked Wylie Beckert to work on the cover art, and I think she did an absolutely incredible job. I cannot praise her work highly enough. Seriously, if you don't know Wylie Beckert, she is a legend, and the same situation actually goes to Alice Chow as well. Yeah, she's another one that I really want to work with. And when I found out we were going to work on Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and also Piranesi, I DM her immediately. Hey Alice, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of your dream projects. And she was so elated, and she delivered, she exceeded everything that I wanted to this project. And you can see the result in the artwork here, and this edition actually comes with an acid-free paper and also Smithsoon binding, and the edges, they are done by Elsa Velasco. I think Elsa did a great job in matching the edges together with Wylie Beckert's illustration and all the overall color scheme. I'm actually really proud of how this one turns out. Working as an art director for this one, hearing that Susanna Clarke herself actually really loved everything that I did, everything that we all did for this edition of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and also Piranesi. It just made me proud. It just made me happy, and I hope many of you will love the final result as well. But these are two books. They are both standalone. They are not related, and they will be shipped in the month of August and the month of September. And as for the final 3 books in the fantasy subs, you will just have to wait. But speaking of subs, the Broken Binding has also announced their sci-fi subscription. So this is for the Protectorate series by Megan E. O'Keefe. So I have only read the first book here, Velocity Weapon. The entire project, they are mostly handled by Elliot Brooks. Well, I am working on the series as well, but most of the projects, the art briefs and also the design, most of them are actually handled by Elliot Brooks. And yeah, Elliot L is my friend. She has been a huge supporter of me, and also like her, I think pretty much both of us relate a lot when it comes to artwork and illustrations, and it has been a blast working together with her on this book, on these books, and also another book that I cannot talk about until they ship yet. But yeah, if you want to know more about the details of this one, I have pretty much posted the available artwork in this video. But again, I always link the necessary details in the description down below. And speaking of sci-fi, we have decided to actually begin the countdown for our edition of the Sun Eater series. And this means Disquiet Gods and also Shadows Upon Time. So we're starting to reveal, or pretty much begin the countdown to the cells of the Sun Eater series, the final 2 books in the Sun Eater series. So we have revealed the board art of Disquiet Gods and also Shadows Upon Time. And today we are revealing the end papers of Disquiet Gods. And yeah, I'm not going to go into details about this one, but the back end paper, if you have read the series here, this is the birth of Orphan. And yeah, it's sick. I think the entire imagery portrayed here is actually kind of terrifying. And I remember Christopher Ruocchio saying that this is pretty much perfect, and yeah, I'm pretty much happy with these end papers, and I hope any of you will be thrilled with this edition as well. I will spotlight the cover art in the next episode of SFF Spotlight. But after the broken binding, I think it is time to talk about Conversation Tree Press announcement. So Conversation Tree Press have announced they will be, well, this has been announced a while ago, but they have finally revealed the artwork for their edition of Perdido Street Station by China Mieville, and their edition will be illustrated by Jana Heidersdorf. I think they picked such an amazing artist to work on their edition of Perdido Street Stations. Although we have been shown only 3 artwork, I am confident that this edition will turn out to be an absolute stunner if Conversation Tree Press history is to go by. And also, Conversation Tree Press announced they will be, well, they are on proto-molecule here because they are going to be publishing their edition of The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. Before this announcement, I think the only fine press edition for this 9 books sci-fi series, one of my favorite sci-fi series, is the Subterranean Press edition, illustrated by Daniel Doshu. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what James S.A. Corey and Conversation Tree Press have planned for this edition. Really, really cool. And now let's talk about cover reveals. Speaking of James S.A. Corey earlier, well, James S.A. Corey is made up of 2 authors. Well, Daniel Abraham and also Ty Frank. Daniel Abraham, he's also an author behind many incredible epic fantasy series such as The Long Price Quartet and The Dagger and The Coin. These 2 series, they are both criminally underrated. I haven't read the Kitamar trilogy yet, but Orbit Books have shown the cover art to the 3rd book in the Kitamar trilogy, which is The Judge of Worlds. And this one also will be illustrated by Daniel Doshu. I guess it is time for me to dive into this one. I have read both The Long Price Quartet and also The Dagger and The Coin. I love them both, and I have no doubt, just like the Expanse as well, I will end up loving the Kitamar trilogy too. Again, if you haven't read The Long Price Quartet and also the Dagger and the Coin series, I strongly recommend it to pick them up, especially if you are patient with reading a relatively okay first book of a series, because the rest of the series in both of these 2 series, they are both outstanding. I love The Long Price Quartet and also The Dagger and the Coin, and I look forward to reading the Kitamar trilogy. After that, the Library of America have announced their complete edition box set for the books of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. And yeah, I don't think we have got the chance to actually see the book yet, but this is the design of the slipcase or the box set. And yeah, speaking of reprint, we also have a reprint with a new design, well, a new color scheme for the Red Rising Saga by Pierce Brown. And yeah, I love this new design from Hodder. I think this is from the UK edition. But I have always been confused why Iron Gold went with the white scheme cover art. Originally, I thought all from Iron Gold up to the end to Red God, all of them will feature white background. So in a way, it will be kind of like the first 3 books, Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star. They will come with a black background, and then the start of a new series in the universe, Iron Gold up to Red God, will be done in white background. And then we arrived at Dark Age, and suddenly it is yellow background. And then Lightbringer goes back to the black background again. So in a way, Iron Gold and also Dark Age, the color scheme of the background felt a bit odd in my opinion. But this new paperback edition actually used all black scheme background for their edition. And I think it's beautiful, and it is what the original cover art of Red Rising Saga, the color scheme should be. So if you want a matching paperback set, this is your chance. And finally, we also have a reprint of The Black Company by Glen Cook. Well, this one features all white background. As I said, if Red Rising Saga should utilize a black background, well, the Black Company somehow actually utilized a white background, not a black background, despite the name of the series being the Black Company. I have actually read 5 books in the Black Company series. I think the first 3 were actually the strongest of the series. But again, similar to the Red Rising Saga, if you're on a matching paperback edition, well, you have the chance to do that now, because despite many special editions, and I actually love special editions, you can actually still purchase the cheaper edition. You will still get most of the content, which is at its inherent and the most important part, well, the text. And you will still get that. The prose from the authors, you will still get that from buying the cheap edition. Personally, I just love having more special editions in my library. But moving on to the final section of today's SFF Spotlight episode, let's talk about Kickstarter campaign. The first one I want to spotlight is about the final book in the Shadow Watch saga by S.A. Klopfenstein or Stephen Klopfenstein, and this is for the Well of Shadows, the 4th book in the series. We have finally arrived at the final book in the series, and I look forward to, for myself, to getting a copy of this book because I have owned the first 2 books in the Shadow Watch saga. And the last Kickstarter campaign I want to spotlight today, it is actually for a new edition for The Mother of Learning by Domagoj Kurmaic, and I love the Mother of Learning series. I think the premise of that series, it shouldn't work for 4 books long, but Domagoj Kurmaic has the creativity to actually make it work into 4 books or a quartet. And I'm super happy with the result. I love the series, especially book 2 up to book 4. But I don't know, all the series were a standout for me. I think I can see myself actually rereading Mother of Learning in the future. But yeah, Wraithmarked is actually releasing a new deluxe illustrated edition of the Mother of Learning series, and I cannot wait to get a copy of this book. And finally, that's pretty much all the topic about books in today's episode of SFF Spotlight. I always try to actually restrict myself from actually featuring every single thing going on in the adult science fiction and fantasy genre, because as I said in the beginning of this video, there are a lot of news appearing every single day for pretty much every day. I'm not kidding, except probably Saturday and Sunday, but Monday to Friday, you can actually expect a lot of news being poured out by the publishing industry. I'm just talking about adult science fiction and also fantasy genre. I haven't even included like YA, romantasy, and more. But that's about it. So for the final topic I want to talk about today is just to talk a little bit about gaming announcement, because the past few weeks, gaming announcements have been absolutely insane. I don't know how many of you are actually gamers here. I've been playing games ever since I was probably a baby. Yeah, probably a baby, and I think the past 2 weeks the announcements have been absolutely insane. Not only it combined nostalgia with modern technology, I think seeing gaming titles announcement on God of War Laufey, Persona 4 Revival, Final Fantasy VII Revelation, and then The Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time remake, and more. It has been like mind-blowing news one after another, and I'm just so happy and I want to play them all. Even though now I don't play as much as I used to per day, but still I like to chill sometimes at the end of the day when I don't have any more energy to read or work. I like to play like an hour or 2 before I go to sleep, even though usually my adrenaline was actually pumped up too much to sleep. But anyway, my point stands that I think these gaming announcements, not only books, they are all incredibly exciting. The downside probably is that we don't have enough time in the day to actually enjoy all of our hobbies. I feel that every day now, especially this year. But anyway, that's pretty much the end of today's episode of SFF Spotlight. Do let me know what you think about the news that I spotlighted in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.